Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, good, thank you. Good morning or good afternoon to everybody. So I will make a short presentation giving you an insight of the situation of the SVOM project. And before starting, don't worry if we have some interruption because the internet connection here is unstable, I would say. So maybe if the connection is stopped, I will go back later. So here, I hope you can see my slides.
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, perfect.
Is it?
It's not in full screen. Oh, yes.
Perfect. Well, so thank you giving me this opportunity to present you the status of the SVOM project. For those who don't know me, my name is François Gonzalez. I'm working at CNES, French Space Agency in Toulouse. I'm the French project manager for SVOM, sharing this activity with people from China, CNSA or CAS. CAS is the Chinese Academy of Science. So for starting this presentation, I'd like to show you these nice pictures of the SVOM satellite. Of course, this is not the flight model of the SVOM satellite. This is a QM, a qualification model that the Chinese have built with us. And that was in 2019, where we spent several months in Shanghai for integrating and testing this nice satellite. So the Chinese are, I think, the only space agency building a complete satellite, qualification model of a complete satellite. We don't do it anymore. But it was very useful to build this QM sat first to check design and everything, if everything was okay, and second to learn better how to work with these people, because we have, of course, different culture and way of doing the things. But we did a very nice job at that moment. But that was before the COVID pandemic. We came back from Shanghai in January 2020, and since that time we have not been there back. So since this January 2020, we've been working hard on the flight units. Each side, Chinese or French side, trying to build up the flight models for which everyone is involved. So I will show you in a brief way, of course, the status where we are today, starting by the instruments, which of course is the key issue for developing the SVOM satellite. So this slide is showing you where we are on the ECLAIR development. I can start by the end. ECLAIR is the hardware is finished. You have, I hope you can see my pointer on the right side upper level, the complete ECLAIR instrument. I hope you know what is ECLAIR, MXT, and other. So ECLAIR is an instrument developed by French side and the CNES authority together with French labs like IRAP and CEA also, and other French labs, and also small companies. But we are acting as a prime, and this integration you can see on this picture is in CNES premises in Toulouse. So 1 year ago, IRAP finished the assembly of what they call the DPIX. DPIX is the detection plane of these instruments. For memory, it involves 6,400 detectors, and it was a very challenging task for IRAP to build up this DPIX. We can see it, I hope, it's the black box in the lower part of the instrument. These are the electronics, and the detectors are at that level. So this DPIX subsystem was completely assembled 1 year ago, and we started the performance test at that subsystem level, and that was done very properly in the 2-3 first month of last year. The main result is that we have a very impressive, I would say, and good homogeneity of these 6,400 detectors. And also we were already confident in the performance of this detection plan, reaching the performance at 4 keV, which is the challenging specification for this instrument. Then from this time, we then added other subsystems, and in March we integrated together with these DEPICs the shielding, which is here in the lower part left side, the black part here. This is the shielding, and in the upper level of the instrument, this is the coded mask developed by the APC in Paris. So then we had basically the telescope flight model in our hands in March, and we started a calibration campaign for approximately 2 months. It was a continuous activity, days and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the team was composed of NES members, of course, but IRAP, of course. I would call the PI of this instrument is Mr. Jean-Luc Atteya. You probably know. I don't know if he is connected today, and also people from CEA, because CEA is responsible of developing the software and the trigger of this complex instrument. So it was a real teamwork, and the results were very interesting. I have no slide, and I prefer scientists present some performance rather than me. I hope if there are questions, somebody is able to answer. But at the end, the performance were well measured, and the calibration campaign give a very positive result. And then in July, we added the last subsystem, which is the radiator. You can see here in the central picture, the radiator and the assembly at CNES with a telescope. Of course, this red part is not, it's only ground protection cover. The red cover will then be removed at the latest time. The radiator, as you know, is completely white. And then at that time in July, we had the complete instrument integrated, and we did some check work, added some MLI and things like that. And in September, we started the final run, I would say, for testing this instrument and the severe environment, as you know, and the vibration. This picture here is showing eclair and the vibration. Shocks, EMC testing, and we finished in October, and also a part of beginning of November, thermal test, vacuum and balance and thermal vacuum test. And okay, that's done. So the eclair instrument, you can see here in the complete configuration of the telescope with the radiator. Here backwards, you can see the computer of this instrument. All this is now waiting for delivery to the Chinese. I will give some more information later on that, but the hardware is ready here. Similarly, we did the same philosophy for developing MXT. MXT is a software telescope. Again, this is developed under responsibility of CNES, integrated at CNES, together with CEA. The PI is Diego Gotz from CEA. I guess he is connected to this video conference. And this is a new generation of telescope, very challenging, and we are very happy to say that we did it in a way. As Eclair, the instrument is ready to be sent to China, because that was our objective to send these instruments in December to China. 1 year ago, we had the MCAM, is the camera, which is developed by CEA. It's a quite complicated subsystem with the detectors, with a calibration source, with electronics, with also filters. So all this is a complete subsystem by itself. And we did some qualification 1 year ago in December. And the MOP stands for MXT optical device. So you can see these optics, probably you know that it's a kind of lobster eye for the telescope, and here it is a very fragile subsystem with a glass, very thin glass plates. So with these shocks and all this went very good, and the qualification was okay. In March, we performed a very complete campaign that was in CEA to test the complete detection chain of this instrument. And many tests have been performed to check the performance, how to operate this detector. The detector for memory has been provided by the Max Planck Institute. And then we had to learn how to operate it and to check the performance of this detector. That has been done very carefully at CEA in last spring. And then in May, we had an instrument completely assembled. You can see here on this picture quite the final assembly of the telescope with the tube. The lower part is a camera, and the upper part is the optics. The radiator is not yet here, but it was ready in May. And then we started testing, mechanical testing. Here you have this photo in the vibration pod of the telescope. And then we've been through EMC, that's this other picture. And the results were very good. And we had no breakage, and we were qualified. And then, differently from Eclair, we had to perform a campaign for checking the performance of this telescope in the Panther facility in Munich with the contribution of the Max Planck Institute. And that's this picture. You can see here in the Panther facility, the vacuum chamber, the telescope before testing. The teams have spent 5 or 6 weeks even to check all the performances, optical performances, and the results are very good. Once again, if you have some questions about that, I think Diego can answer. And then now the instrument is back to Toulouse. You can see here the complete configuration with the telescope, with the MLI, the radiator, and here the computer with nominal and redundant box. So I'm very proud to say that we have 2 very powerful instruments ready for the SVOM mission. I have 2 slides for the Chinese instrument. Of course, I will be brief. I have not the detail, but I would say for the GRM is the other instruments on board the SVOM satellite for high energy detection. And it is composed of 3 sensors, what they call the GRD detectors. And a GPM is a particle monitoring part of the GRM, and an electronic box, of course. So this instrument probably is the simpler of the 4 instruments, and it's ready. The IHEP in Beijing did the job properly. Similarly as what we did, all the tests have been okay, the performance seems okay, and now this instrument is ready to be installed on board the satellite. And finally, the VT stands for Visible Telescope. It's developed by Chinese side together with NAOC and an institute from CIAN, the CRPM. Okay, so this instrument should be ready, but this is the key information. We got this information 1 month ago during the last steering committee between CNES and CNSA. They got some problems during, I think, thermal test, where I tried to check probably the performance. We understood that they had some problems for thermoelastic behavior, and they had to implement some modification, especially on the second mirror of this telescope and the mechanical standoff for holding this mirror. We understood that it was sensitive to thermal variations, and so they are correct in this, but in practice, they need, here as it's written, this is a Chinese slide, it's not written by me, they need 3 or 5 months more. So in principle, this telescope should have been ready in now for starting the integration of the payload module of the satellite. So we have a shift, because the shift of the VT is totally impacting the complete sequence of the assembly of the satellite and then up to the launch. So that's the main consequence of that. I have no detail, because the Chinese, they don't give a number of detail on what's occurring, but we had a very high level management meeting, and they are committed to reach providing the flight model of the VT in, say, May next year. One word about the VHF network. You know that under CNES hands and responsibility to deploy this network. I recall, for those who do not know, that this is the network giving the ability for the SVOM mission to get the alert detected by the satellite, ECLAIR or GRM, and then to send it in a rather short time frame, would say less than 30 seconds, to the French Science Center before sending this alert to worldwide, I mean, all the big telescopes. So we are deploying a number of these ground stations. What you can see here in green is easy to read. It's the stations already installed and operating. We can check these ground stations using the American satellite NOAA, because we are using the same frequency bandwidth. So we can make some tests to check the behavior of these VHF ground stations in the green places. In orange, I would say, these are places where the hardware is already there. We send it, and we are on the way to install it very soon. So that will be probably done during the 3 first months of next year. And then you can see some holes. So it's for the further step. We have some further installations to be done in the places you can see here, in which, of course, I take this opportunity.
François?
We have lost François, I think.
François, can you hear us?
Hi, François. No.
Sorry?
François?
Yes, please go.
No, we missed what you were saying in the last slide.
The last slide, all the slides?
The last section of what you said.
The last section, okay, the green stations are already there. The orange, the hardware is already on the places and should be installed in the first 3 months of next year. And the other places we need to go ahead and to install that next year. And I was emphasizing that in these white places. We have 2 or 3, I don't remember exactly, ground stations to be installed in Mexico. So we already had some discussions about that. I would like to go ahead with you on this beginning of next year. And I was saying, if you have some comment, you can take the floor.
Yes, we can do that in the discussion section. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's not only that, as what I was saying, it's not only instruments, it's not only VHF. We are doing very huge work on system because the SVOM mission is quite complex, probably you know. We have to coordinate and to make sure that it will operate properly in between a number of things: the satellite, the ground segment, and on the ground segment, we have many places in China, many places in France. We have Colibri and also the Chinese ground telescope. And we have also the GCN for distributing the alert, and we have the science community to propose requests for TOO observation. You know that better than me. So this is a small drawing here on the lower part summarizing that SVOM is not a unique mission. Of course, we want to detect and observe GRBs, but not only that. In between GRBs, we will have a general program to observe other targets, and we also have an important program now for TOOs. We have split the TOOs in different categories: nominal, which is a simple revisit, or exceptional events, or multi-messengers, which of course have the priority. So all this means that we need to have the ability to reconfigure the observation scenario in real time during the mission. And we need to prepare that with the Chinese, because the Chinese, they have no experience about such a complex system. And for that, we organize a number of system tests. And that's been done very properly in the past. And we'll do that in the future, especially next year. We have a special test for how the alert will be distributed, involving the Chinese ground centers, the French ground centers, and also kind of twin telescope in LAM, in OHP, simulating the Colibri, which is not yet ready, of course. So this slide, I will not go into the details. We're doing a lot, but I want to emphasize one thing, that since last year, we had an improvement for the SVOM mission. It's a late arrival, and it's giving a sort of mess in between the teams, but it's a big progress for the mission. You know, for TOO, we want to reprogram so the observation scenario of the satellite. And today we were using, and it's also always the baseline, we're using the classical uplink using S-band from CNES or from Chinese side. But the time response, you know, that probably was quite long, maybe 10 or 12 hours. And the PIs, Bertrand and Janyan, were asking years ago for trying to see if we had a better solution. And the better solution would be to use the Beidou constellation, which is a kind of GPS or Galileo constellation, operational now in China. And then we got the green light, if I can say that, from the Chinese last year. So it's coming in the loop of the SVOM system, but it's considered by the Chinese, so by us, as something that is being added to the SVOM, but not completely, of course, involved in the SVOM system, because Beidou is a military. system. This picture, we can have a direct link with a permanent visibility because we have, I don't know, 24, 27 Beidou satellites around the Earth. So we have a permanent visibility, and we can use this Beidou link to have shorter time response. I said 10 or 12 hours to reprogram. Now with Beidou, we should reach something in between 1 or 2.
The connection is very unstable. Huh?
Yes, his audio is cutting off. François? Guess he can't hear us. François? Whoops.
Well, we have definitely lost.
Sorry, I just got back the connection.
Okay. Okay. Yes, we lost about a minute of what you were saying there, and your presentation is not showing.
Okay, I need to. I'm sorry. The
It's okay.
The connection is quite unstable.
There we go.
It's okay.
Yes, we can see it. So,
So can you record me where I finish? Here.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
At what level?
Oh, the last minute.
Here.
Yes.
The last minutes.
1 minute.
1 minute. So you had the information about Beidou, I suppose.
Yes, you were talking about that.
Okay. So I was just saying that we are doing a number of tests. So end-to-end test last year, the ground programming loop for checking how we can operate the general program and also the TO program together with the Chinese. That's a challenge. And okay, that's normal work. We have a progress meeting in early February. The dates here are obsolete. We have shifted a little bit this. And no, the key point will be in early next year. I go to the next slide. I lost. Okay, can you see it? I want to check before.
Yes.
Okay, so the planning is no detailed planning. You just know that we started years ago. The launch now is due to the delay from the Chinese side. The launch is foreseen in mid-2023. So from today, okay, we have a key point in early next year. But the key activity will be dedicated to the integration of the satellite. So the French instruments, as I said, are ready to be sent, but we will not send them before we are sure the Chinese are ready to do the integration of these instruments. So we will send them probably in May, April, May. That gives them the time to finish the development of the VT and to start the integration of the Chinese part of the satellite, which is a big part because they have to first integrate and test the platform, which is the vehicle of the satellite, and then start with the Chinese instrument because it has been defined like that. And then we arrive at the end and we install the French instrument at the end of this process. And so just keep in mind that the integration of the French instrument to finish the satellite flight model integration will be done in summer next year. And after that, we'll start a long time for making all these tests we need to perform on a satellite, mechanical, EMC, thermal test, leading to spring next year, and then the launch campaign probably in May, June, for the launch mid of 2023. and that's okay for me. I try to answer your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Francois. So I don't know if there are any questions. Alan, could you comment on the issue with the antennae, the VHF antennae?
Yeah, so we're planning to install VHF antenna in San Pedro Martir in our observatory. I don't know, Francois, if you want to point to these sites. San Pedro Martir, up there in Baja California, and then Chamela, which is on the Pacific coast of Jalisco, a little bit south, and then in Merida, which is in the Yucatan Peninsula over by the Caribbean, to give coverage over Mexico. We have agreed with that. We're ready to receive those. We're waiting for them, the hardware to be sent by CNES. And I hope to install those in February and March of next year.
Okay, do you mean that we can send the hardware to you? Because the hardware, we have it, so.
We need to coordinate because you can't send it unless we're expecting it. But yes, I believe we are ready for it to be sent.
Okay. I asked the team to contact you, so.
We have been, yeah, so the team has been in touch with Alan and copying me about this. And actually, Alan visited the Chamela station. The Chamela station is under the supervision of the Biology Institute at the university. And so we've talked to the director of the institute, and Alan visited the station over summer break, more or less. And the Yucatan antenna is going to be installed at the school that UNAM has in Merida, in the outskirts of Merida. And so we've talked to the director there as well.
Fernando Angeles visited there in August as well.
And the one in San Pedro is under our supervision at the observatory. So yes.
So that's good. Thank you. That's good to hear. So I understand, to make it clear for me, that you are coordinating for these three places.
We are.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We will. This should be transparent for you. We will set up an internal UNAM agreement with this institute and school, and it will all come through us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let me see. Are there any other questions for Francois? So hi, I came in late and I was supposed to chair this, and Rosa kindly chaired the start, and now she handed over to me. So I'm chairing the rest of this morning session. Any other questions for Francois?
Maybe, William, I can make a small comment to complement. As it had been said by Francois, we have started, I think, 2 weeks ago to test the system. It means that we simulate an alert from SVOM and we trigger the telescope, and we did that so 2 weeks ago, and it works nice. And just to be clear, we would make the test in March with Colibri that time. So in end of March, we have in mind the possibility to test not all the system, the alert of SVOM, and we trigger Colibri automatically and make an acquisition with Dragito. Like this, we can make a full test of the chain.
Okay, good. So, Francois, I understood from the slides you showed that the tests required for the VT require this delay of about at least 3 months, is what you mentioned. Is this the main change in calendar that goes to the end of the launch?
Yes, up to now, and from what I know, as you know, the Chinese, they are not talking too much. And for instance, I can give you this example that I suppose I was anticipating they had some problems since the beginning of this year, because I saw that the pace of their activity was not full speed. From what we defined in the planning, and they just were obliged to give this information at the last time because we had a very high-level management meeting for the steering committee in September. So we may have similar experiences from now to the launch, but if the instruments GRM is okay, instruments are the most complicated, and if they succeed on the VT, what we know that there has been a very how could I say that the people developing VT have a strong pressure on their shoulders. We're talking about China, so they have the pressure to reach this and not to overpass this delay of 3 or 4 or 5 months. And if they do so, my feeling and understanding is that we have no technical risk for inducing further delays, except one thing. That's maybe the point of your question. The one big issue is the pandemic, of course, because I said that next year the main activity is the integration of the satellites, and I said at the beginning, mandatory, that for doing this integration, when French instruments are concerned, it's mandatory that French team is there. The Chinese are not allowed. This is at government level. The Chinese are not allowed to handle French instruments without our presence. But today, due to the pandemic, we cannot go to China. So I hope that next year will be better. If not, then we may face a critical situation. But we are talking with the French embassy in China. We're talking with a very high level, trying to find a solution. The solution is possible, but not easy. For instance, it's possible to send a team in China with the help of the diplomatic people, of course, but they have to stay 3 weeks of quarantine before doing anything. So you see, this participation of the French team to the satellite integration is mandatory, but to organize that is not simple. So that may be the main issue for the planning.
Okay. All right. Thank you, François.
Thank you.